Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a dense but incredibly rewarding framework for living.
That's a good way to put it.
Our material comes from a whole set of philosophical and spiritual essays by Suifeng of Lifechanyuan.
And this isn't just, typical self-help.
Not at all. It's a systematic cosmology.
Yeah.
It really tries to explain the entire universe and, more importantly, your place in it.
That's right. These sources provide a complete, unified spiritual path. It's a systematic and, frankly, a pretty provocative structure for understanding spiritual evolution.
It really demands you reevaluate everything.
It does. How we see purpose, time, the big life choices. It basically gives you a roadmap.
And our mission today is to navigate that roadmap for you. We're distilling this wisdom, giving you a shortcut to understanding what's called the greatest creator's communication.
And the really acute practical steps for self-improvement.
Exactly. Moving from deep philosophy to, the actions you might take this afternoon. So let's start at the very beginning. The nature of communication itself.
Okay, so the foundational belief here, the starting point, is that the greatest creator has never spoken in human language.
Never.
And will never. No English, no Chinese, no Latin. There isn't a direct personal conversation in a voice you'd recognize.
And this is the key, the creator is anything but silent. In fact, the sources say the creator is communicating constantly.
All the time.
Through what they call the language of the greatest creator. And this is this universal, pervasive language of nature, of phenomena.
Think of it as a constant, non-verbal dialogue. Every single thing, every shift in the cosmos, every event on Earth is part of this language.
So you mean like the sun, the moon, the stars?
Yes, and the rush of rivers, the shifting seasons, the growth and decay of life, even the chirping of insects.
And even the big disruptive stuff. Earthquakes, floods.
All of it. Everything you can perceive is a component of this continuous message.
So if the message is everywhere, why aren't we all, spiritually enlightened?
Right. That's the million-dollar question, and that's where the human limitation comes in.
There's a catch.
A big one. To actually comprehend this language, the sources insist you need a duality, a pairing of two essential things.
And those are spiritual perception and wisdom.
Exactly. You have to have both circuits connected to really get it. Operating with only one is, well, it's like flying half blind.
The framework makes some pretty clear distinctions here.
It does. So take, for instance, traditional religious figures. They often have that spiritual perception. They can sense the creator's presence. They know the what.
But they might be missing the full picture.
They often lack the wisdom, the complete logical framework to grasp the full workings of the Tao. They don't know the why of the system.
And then you have the flip side. The scientists. They're armed with logic, with all this accumulated knowledge.
Right. They understand the why of existence, the biological and physical mechanisms of life and death, all discovered through experiment and logic.
But they can lack that spiritual perception. They can't truly sense the creator's existence or, I guess, the ultimate necessity behind it all.
They miss the what. And the source material suggests that the vast majority of people, the general population, well, they lack both.
So they're living blindly, in a way.
Largely in the material world, yeah, existing without a clear sense of ultimate purpose. And this all leads us to the universal principle that governs this entire conversation, Tao.
Tao, or truth. The absolute core that you see sought across all major spiritual traditions.
And the sources argue it's all the same unified truth, just with different labels.
Right. So Jesus called it the Word of God is truth.
And Sakyamuni, Lao Tzu, Muhammad, they all pointed toward this one singular eternal principle. It's not optional.
And what I find really helpful is that this source provides a specific, actionable framework. It defines 8 attributes of Tao.
This is so important because it tells you exactly what truth looks like in practice.
Okay, what are they?
Emptiness, universality, trust or reliability, naturalness, justice, kindness, uniqueness, and eternity.
Emptiness is a big one. It's not nihilism, right? It's the idea that pure Tao is the origin point, free of material attachments.
Free of bias. And universality means these laws apply everywhere, not just in a specific temple or church. They're reliable.
Which links back to trust. That's a crucial one because it governs the laws of cause and effect, which I know we'll get into later.
We will. But the immediate mandate, the first step, is this. Tao is inscrutable to the boisterous and the noisy.
So if your mind is full of clutter, of chatter, of desire,
you just can't perceive this communication. You can't see these attributes. You have to quiet your mind first.
So once we start to perceive this fundamental truth, how do we apply it? to our very short, finite lives.
That brings us right to part two, making consequential choices and finding your track.
I love this part. The central essay is called Life Needs a Track.
And it addresses this powerful idea that so many highly talented people appear mediocre.
It's not because they lack ability.
Not at all. It's because they either never found their right path, their track, or they took a seriously wrong one.
The analogies are incredible. An excellent aircraft with the best engines, the best design.
It's just a pile of metal on the ground without a runway.
It can't fulfill its purpose.
Okay.
Or the runner, the gifted runner, whose potential is totally buried because they're forced to run on some chaotic, unprepared field.
Instead of a proper racetrack, and you see this in history, Eisenhower and Patton, their genius was only realized because they found the track of war.
Their talents match the environment perfectly.
Or someone like Jet Li. His discipline found its perfect expression on the track of martial arts cinema.
So the message is practical. You have to choose the track that suits your personality, your gifts. And if it doesn't exist,
You build your own, you're obligated to. But even that choice, the choice of profession, is secondary to the choice of priority.
exactly. The sources are so clear on the hierarchy here. Life, as we know it, is a flash of light in the infinite time and space of life with a capital L.
Denoting eternity, right. So your priorities have to reflect that cosmic perspective.
So, first priority, revere the greatest creator. And this isn't necessarily about religious worship in the traditional sense.
No, it's defined as reverence for nature, respect for the infinite, and reverence for life itself.
And the second priority,
The beauty of the soul, the pursuit of spiritual purity and elevation has to dominate everything else. The source really warns against letting this get pushed aside by the chase for power, money, or fame.
if the soul's structure is impure, the rest just doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant. And this all ties into what the sources call the best coordinate system.
Which is?
Before you aspire to be a Buddha or a celestial being, you have to nail your starting point. You are a mortal human.
You're not a god, not a devil, not a beast.
You have to successfully complete the requirements of being human first.
So what are those core human things?
They're the moral foundations you need to establish deep roots. Things like filial piety, respecting your teachers and elders, caring for the young and vulnerable, and protecting the environment.
That's the non-negotiable groundwork.
If you skip it, the whole structure you're trying to build just fails. And then there's the other side of the coin. Avoiding what the sources call the ghostly things.
The corrosive acts, the things that pollute the soul's structure.
Yeah, things like being sneaky, cheating, slandering saints or sages, seeking favor by flattering people in power.
So avoiding those is like spiritual weed pulling.
Exactly. If you let those things fester, you compromise your foundation, and no amount of material success can save you. Establishing these roots is the absolute prerequisite for any higher understanding.
That focus on roots and perfection of the soul, it transitions us beautifully into part 3, where this whole thing gets surprisingly scientific.
It does. This isn't just moral guidance. This is the physics of spiritual change.
The ultimate goal is the sublimation, the refinement, and transformation of your non-material life structure.
And that non-material life structure is everything. It determines your ultimate life ending, your destination. And the first catalyst you need to start this transformation is actually quite simple.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. The source states that people who lack gratitude have fundamentally deformed life structures.
That's a strong statement.
It is. They're described as being doomed to extinction, not just physical death, but the end of their eternal consciousness.
Whereas real happiness, real ascent, belongs only to appreciative givers of thanks.
And to explain how this transformation happens from imperfect to perfect, the source uses this brilliant chemical analogy: graphite and diamond.
They're both just carbon.
Pure carbon. The material is identical, but the difference in their molecular structure, their permutation and combination, their internal order is absolute.
So graphite, which is soft, brittle, low cohesion. That's the analogy for ordinary, flawed humans. Our consciousness is disorganized.
Weak, easily influenced. But diamond is hard, unified, invincible. It symbolizes celestial beings or Buddhas.
The material didn't change, but the structure, the internal consciousness, achieved perfect order.
So the lesson is, if your consciousness is out of order, driven by selfish desires, you devolve toward lower life forms. But if you achieve spiritual order, focused on gratitude and truth, you evolve toward higher life.
It's a fundamental rearrangement of your eternal structure.
And that concept leads directly to the next spiritual law presented. The purer, the more stable.
The stability of your eternal structure is directly proportional to its purity.
And the analogies for this are so memorable. Think about supercooled water.
Right, it stays liquid way below its freezing point.
Precisely because it's so pure. It doesn't have the impurities that ice crystals need to form on.
Purity gives it stability against external forces.
And you see it in the social sphere, too. Impure friendships, ones based on money or politics, they just collapse the moment those external interests shift.
And impure political systems where principles are mixed with corruption.
They inevitably destabilize and fail. The structural integrity is gone.
Which brings us to what I find the most compelling and honestly intimidating concept here, the 0-degree critical point.
In nature, 0 degrees Celsius is that precise pivot. Below is solid, which they equate to spiritual death. Above is liquid, or eternal life.
So in spiritual evolution, to get that qualitative change, from graphite to diamond, from human to celestial being, the perfection of your life structure has to exceed that critical point.
It is the moment of structural phase transition.
Which raises this terrifying question. What if you spent a lifetime cultivating your spirit and you only reach, say, -1 degree?
The sources warn that so many spiritual cultivators give up right there. They don't realize they're just one step away from that pivotal permanent transformation.
So all that effort is wasted.
Wasted.
Yeah.
Because they didn't cross the critical threshold. And it's stated that the greatest creator, the pivot of all change,
This is right into our final section, part 4, warnings, wisdom, and the final flight.
The source uses a very stark travel analogy here from a real missed flight at Bangkok Airport.
If you miss a normal plane, you wait a few hours, maybe a day.
But missing life's ultimate final flight, the chance for complete sublimation in this particular era means waiting for centuries, maybe millennia.
And the sources suggest that timing is observable. It's not just ancient prophecies.
No, they point to classical texts, like the Bible's 2 Timothy, which describes the mentality of the last days.
What mentality is that?
People consumed by loving themselves, loving money, being ungrateful, slanderous, unholy. That mindset is the countdown clock.
And to be ready for that flight, you have to get out of the land of spiritual slavery, which is called the Egypt of the Spirit.
This is a radical concept. The real Egypt isn't a place on a map.
It's a construct in the human heart that binds us.
And the sources list things you wouldn't expect. Family, nationality, race, political party, even religion, when they're clung to blindly as your ultimate defining boundaries.
So those are the Egypt of the Spirit.
Yes, and you must walk out of them, keeping only the greatest creator and your parents as sacred territory. Anything else, any other allegiance that supersedes that is deemed selfish and destined to disappear.
That's a radical call for a universal identity over a segmented one.
It is. And that level of freedom requires a profound shift in how we understand morality, especially the difference between evil kindness and benevolent evil.
Evil kindness. That sounds like a contradiction.
It's insidious because it's sincere. It's well-meaning advice given with pure but short-sighted intentions that ends up ruining great opportunities.
Can you give an example?
Think of friends cautioning an entrepreneur against a risky but world-changing venture. They're trying to protect them, but they're actually blocking massive evolution.
It creates invisible obstacles, but it feels like care. So then what's benevolent evil?
That's the seemingly cruel action that ultimately saves or elevates someone. The classic example is the mother bird shoving the fledgling out of the nest.
It's harsh, it's terrifying for the little bird.
But it is the one action that teaches it to fly and liberates it into a much broader, freer existence.
So the wisdom is that pure, unqualified kindness can actually harm people by creating dependence.
Or by helping them avoid necessary risks. Only benevolent evil, which is rooted in the goal of ultimate salvation, can truly save both people involved.
This whole deep dive really culminates in one final, critical distinction. It dictates how we even process all this material.
The difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Knowledge in this context is external. It's what you get from schools, books, teachers. It's understanding you acquire without your own contemplation.
Show what you were given.
Wisdom, on the other hand, is internal. It's the ability gained through your own brain's contemplation and analysis. It's the crystallization of your personal thinking.
The whole spiritual journey, escaping that Egypt of the spirit, reaching the 0 degree point, It's not about acquiring more knowledge.
It's about the birth of wisdom.
And what's fascinating, tying this whole huge framework back to the immediate, is the continuous nature of spiritual accountability. The source material completely gets rid of the idea of a single future judgment day.
Instead, we're judged, rewarded, or punished by Tao constantly, in real time.
The laws of cause and effect are precise and immediate. They're happening in every moment, every decision, every thought.
It's not some future event you prepare for. It's a continuous consequence that's shaping your eternal structure right now.
And this immediate judgment by Tao raises a really important question for you, the learner, to think about.
Which is?
If every thought, every word, every action immediately shapes your eternal structure, which critical point 0 degrees, that pivot of transformation, are you actually working toward right now?
And if the loudest sound in the universe is absolute silence, and that sound can only be heard by a consciousness that has achieved complete internal order and purity, what level of sound are you currently tuned into? Thanks for diving deep with us.